Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We're just trying to get the students online, inshallah. We're using Zoom, so I could see the student and the student could see me, and then they will be able to, inshallah, follow the session. Right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. MashaAllah, we have a lot of brothers and sisters joining us, student, and we'll be starting once I have the 48 of you joining. Is it 48 or 60? Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Everybody, I said. Yeah, more wa alaikum salam. Yeah, more wa alaikum salam I want. Now it says here allow participants to unmute themselves. Right, okay. I think we should make a start. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. What I want to ask you is, what do you think of this demonstrations by black and white and yellow across the globe on Black Life is Meta? Now you can unmute yourself and speak, and I'm not sure if I muted you. I'll unmute. Mute all, invite. I can't unmute you. You're supposed to mute yourself. Unmute yourself. So we have Salman Hewitt is answering. Unmute. Yes, Salman. Unmute yourself because Salman Hewitt asked to unmute.
I feel like the cause itself is great, but I just don't understand. I don't like how some people are giving a bad reputation by using it as an opportunity to just do blatant crime. Like, I understand crime and protest because protesting itself, and once you start getting a bit rowdy, that's a crime. But it's justified, it's morally right. But once you start looting, it's giving it a bad reputation.
Yeah, there's always criminals around who will make use of large gathering and protected demonstrations. So these people, fortunately, has been on the reduction. They were very little yesterday in America, very little looting, and there were very little or no looting in Britain and in Europe. So there were criminals, and seem to be those who are running these demonstrations seem to be probably controlling them. But what do you think? What other thoughts? Anybody have any other thoughts about this demonstrations against the police who discriminate? You can unmute yourself because I can't mute and unmute, it seems, anymore. You all muted, which is not me. I didn't mute you. So who wants to participate? What do you think of these demonstrations across the globe now? Yeah? Who wants to talk? Shall I ask then? Yeah. Sumaya, asked to unmute. Where is Sumaya? Yeah, Sumaya Azmi. What do you think?
and such, and it's just that this is something that was going to happen at some point, because they tried peaceful protests, but that didn't work, and so they tried more violent.
We all object to violence. I have some people who have blocked the cameras where I can't see Zara Rafiq or Halima Shu'ban or Inaya or Muhammad or Waish. I need to see all of you, otherwise it wouldn't be a valid session if I can't see you. So you need to unmute your camera. Imad, what do you think?
I think that, do you know, like, so police brutality is like sort of a difficult topic to talk about when you're not like in the minority that is being attacked. Well, we are being attacked, but like we're not being as attacked as like black people. So
oh, you must be joking. Asian has been stopped and searched in Britain, and when I travel with my family many times with my wife, there is random check and seem to be applying to us, me and my wife, random check. We were random checked in Munich and Frankfurt on 3 occasions. Random check. The random comes on us, being a wife with hijab, and I'm Asian. So we are also suffering as well. Do you agree?
I think like, we're all suffering. Like, I think like Caucasian people and white people are like educating themselves on like white privilege and systemic racism in like their countries, like their own countries. Like, so in America, like Caucasian people are learning about redlining and like what opportunities black people are gonna have for education, and that's how they're underprivileged, because they have a lack of those things.
Good, yeah. As I have raised hands, Ayan Ahmad, you want to speak? Yeah. Who wants to speak? Aisha Malik wants to speak. Yeah? You blocked your video. Who wants to speak? There were 2 raised hands. I can't see them anymore. Right, okay. This is the subject today we're going to talk about, inshallah. But let me share a couple of screens first with you. Last week, we spoke about death made easy. And I took you through a lot of thoughts. I don't know how much left in your mind because so many things we spoke about. But I just want to go through a couple of slides before we leave it. We showed you that you will have only one car for life, which is your body. You have to look after the body because it will be taken away from you. And we said that death is not liked even by prophets. And we mentioned Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and Dawood. And we talked about death in Islam and secular society, and what's the difference between wafa and maut. Wafa is your time is up on earth, maut is your body is not usable anymore. So wafa, your spirit remain alive but is unable to use the body. Who remove the spirit? The angels come and remove the spirit, remove you, talk to you, and there will be dialogue between you and the spirits. And the angels, and they will show you destinations, whether it's paradise or hell, and the body, the soul of the mu'min, the believer, will be coming out of the body like a drop of water coming out of a wool, and the spirit of the unbeliever will be taken out of the body like a spike coming out of wool against its will. And we did say the spirit is the driver and the body is the car, and when the body becomes unusable it goes. And we said that you as a fetus will be a body only without a spirit. You'll be sperm and an egg form the body in the womb of your mom, and then when you are formed 120 days old, all your organs are completed and growing now, the spirit comes and brought about by the angel, which is you, installed in the body, and you become body and soul. The spirit outside the body is called spirit, inside the body is called soul, because it's using a body. You have existence now, and you are obliged to do things or not do things, and you grow up, and then you reach the stage when you are accountable for what you do or not do. And we say that your spirit will be leaving the body before you become conscious or unconscious. Conscious when if somebody suddenly died, the spirit will leave the body instantly. If somebody going through severe illness, then the spirit will leave when you are unconscious. That's last week, and this week I'm going to share with you a video which really nice to see, talking about the subject we're talking about, which is discrimination.
Arguably, Prophet Muhammad was the first person in human history to declare, in no uncertain terms, that no person is above another by virtue of race or ethnicity.
Can you hear the sound all right? You're not hearing the sound.
It's very muffled.
Very muffled.
Yes, I can hear it, but it's like I can't understand the words.
All right. Why is that? Let me try again.
This declaration is crystallized in one of the Prophet's notable speeches, his last sermon. Arguably, Prophet Muhammad was the first person in human history to declare, in no uncertain terms, that no person is above another by virtue of race or ethnicity.
Is it better now? Is it better? Is the sound better?
Can you play it again?
Yes.
Listen again.
Arguably, Prophet Muhammad was the first person in human history to declare, in no uncertain terms, that no person is above another by virtue of race or ethnicity.
Can you hear it now?
Kind of.
Let me ask some. Sana, can you hear it?
No.
It stopped now, but did you hear it when it was running?
It was like really muffled.
Muffled.
Yeah.
Oh, what's wrong with Zoom then? It should be clear sound really. I don't know what Zoom's saying. Let me ask Ahmad. Here now.
This declaration is crystallized in one of the Prophet's notable speeches, his last sermon, as it is known.
I don't have a way to. Is there anything in Zoom to tell me to make changes? Let me check with Zoom. Mute and mute. Share. Record. Zoom. Share new.
Which was delivered on Mount Arafat in 632 AD. In that sermon, the Prophet unequivocally condemned racism when he said, "All mankind is descended from Adam and Eve. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab."
No, still not hearing. Ahmad. Right, okay, well let us leave that video. The video is actually on the page on Facebook, on the SIEA page. You can see it on your own probably sometime. And I'll share the main topic then today. The topic titled is Islam in a modern in the modern world. Can you see the PowerPoint? Can you see the PowerPoint? So now, yeah. Right, is Islam compatible with the modern world, or Islam need to be or a modern Islam is needed? Now, the beauty of Islam. This is a presentation. Last week we talked about number 12. This week this will come under number 17 on your booklet. Spreading Islam, inviting people to good and forbid the evil. So is Islam compatible with the modern world? Islam in basic, there's noises coming from people who are unmuted, so I'm not sure who. So make sure it's not the noise not coming from your side. There's still somebody in. So Islam came offer mankind animals, vegetables, a vegetative world and environment, and the universe, including USA, offering them better life. So who's Islam for? For all mankind, all the creatures, all the environment. Now, Islam, let me just make this smaller because I can't see the whole screen. Re-stressing the existence of the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's the basic reason why Islam came. And warning about life after death. So you need to know where you came from, who's in charge, where are you going back after you die, or are you going back somewhere? Now the answer to that, obviously, the one who brought you, he said, I'll bring you back again. I'll make you alive again. The one who created you in the first place. قال من يعيدها قل الذي أنشأها أول مرة. Who will bring us back to life again? The one who created us in the first place. So, Islam principles spread peace, establish equality, abolish racism, establish freedom of belief, and establish the first constitution, a constitution in a country to include all beliefs and no beliefs. So these principles in Islam is very important. It's spread peace and fight crime. And by the name of Islam, peace. The name shows the aim of Islam. Equality is the very important things brought by the Prophet ﷺ of very first time. The minute he walked in asking people to believe in La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, he said all human beings are equal in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal. And abolished racism. Bilal al-Habashi, black, became equal to Abu Bakr, the white, equal to Salman al-Farisi, the brown. So all colors are considered the same and no privilege to any color against another one. And the video was saying that declaration by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was at the start of the message and at the end of the message. The last farewell talk when the Prophet ﷺ went to do the Hajj, and he established the law in Islam. There is no privilege to the white against the black, or the yellow against the brown, unless you are more righteous, more good, and that puts you ahead of others. Now the third one, the freedom, establish the freedom of belief in Bayinti. The freedom of belief. That's the first time in history you have no obligatory to follow the belief of the leader. In the past, it used to be the king Christian, everybody has to be Christian. A king is a Jew, everybody has to be a Jew. A king is, or the president is communist, everybody has to be a communist. In Islam, no. Islam came, and until now, Muslim countries contain Muslims, Christian, Jew, atheist, Hindu, whatever. And that's the only place in the planet Earth when you're not forced to follow the belief of the leader or the majority. Unfortunately, what's happening now in India, or China, they want to force the Muslims to follow the Hinduism or Buddhism or no belief. It's not the case in Islam. Until the beginning of the 19th century and the 20th century, end of 19th century, beginning of 20th century, there were no Muslims allowed to walk in Europe. The first mosque established in Britain was back in 1918 or 17 in Woking. So Christian churches existed from the beginning of Islam and still there. You go to any Muslim country apart from Mecca and Medina, you'll find that there is churches and allowed. So freedom of belief is very important, which is Islam brought. And that's the things which is the whole world now have difficulty complying with. Now today there's one good news also. Beside all these demonstrations, Black Lives Matter and equality for black and white, there is demonstration in Israel, in Tel Aviv, asking the government of Israel to recognize the right of the Palestinians in staying in the West Bank and not to take the West Bank and make it new settlements in it, which is very good, because if the Israelis started awakening and start becoming aware of equality, and equality has to be also in Israel, give the Palestinian equal rights, that's a major change. So it seems that demonstrations in America and the whole of the globe is awakening some of the Jewish to say, yes, Muslims have rights like us in Israel, which is really very nice, and I hope that will increase. And also Islam established a constitution that all of us equal under the law of the land, providing the law doesn't discriminate against a religion, doesn't ban Muslims from praying, doesn't ban Christians from practicing. That's a valid law. So that's one of the things Islam came to establish. And then Islam came with principles. Until the 20th century wasn't respected in the most of the world, like killing children. Unfortunately, still in certain part of the world, in particular in India, they actually they select the sex of the child. They want boys or they want girls, which is not allowed in Islam. Abolished slavery. Again, it wasn't established in Europe until the United Nations established, and they banned slavery. Islam banned slavery 1441 years ago. There were 21 sources of slaves, and Allah abolished 20 and only kept the slaves which happen again when war takes place. So instead of killing the prisoners of war, it was they were given accommodation and jobs and food and drink, whatever, and they can buy themselves out of the slavery. Otherwise, the other choice is to kill your enemy, which Islam doesn't want to kill. And then that's phased out because there were no more needs to take slaves. You just exchange slave and do things as laws established. And then limited massively and reduced polygamy. Polygamy was man can marry 10 wives, 8 wives. In the previous revelations in Christianity and Judaism, Prophet Dawood married 99 wives. Prophet Sulaiman had 300 wives. So Islam came and said maximum 4. And the time of the Prophet, there were more death in males and more wars and more fight and things between tribe and governments, and there were no governments between civilizations. There were a lot of a loss in men, and there were a lot of women without men. So Islam allowed polygamy to solve the problem of having no guardian. Because if you look into Britain 21st century, you have social service, you have Department of Health and Social Security, you have councils that accommodate single women, single mothers, divorced mothers. There's a lot of systems to contain them. If you go back to the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there were tribes. A tribe fight against another tribe, and they kill the men and take the women. if they leave the women in the desert, they will die. So you need to accommodate them, and that was left for a while until now. There's no need for polygamy because you have other ways to help divorced women. You have other ways to help the increased number of women. So this is reduced. If you come to Muslim world, if you go to the country which have the most polygamy, like in Saudi, 2% have 2 wives, 0.1% have 3 wives, and 0.01% have 4 wives. So very, very limited number. But it's allowed to destroy anything called affair, having affair and having mistresses and having outside marriage relationship. And allowed women to have equal right like men. Women for the first time in Islam are able to trade, buy, own property, divorce the husband, and have jobs and whatever. That's Islam allowed 1441 years ago with equal wage as well. Until now in Britain, wages of men are higher than wages of women. So if you look into Islam in depth, you will find that Islam ahead of all civilizations in all aspects, and they're still catching up. And there's still, until now, in America and Europe, there's no equality between the white and the black. And there's no equal treatment, equal respect and things. Islam encouraged marriage as early as you can afford it. So you reduce, obviously, affair, outside marriage relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend. People go deviated towards practicing sexual acts with, randomly and things. So Islam encouraged marriage and fostered it, and that's a way to keep the human being in existence. Otherwise, we talked about a lot when you destroy the marriage institution, the percentage of reproduction in some countries became beyond repair. Like in Japan, they have 0.5, that the two producing half. Instead of the two producing 2.1 children, they're producing half a child. Means that every 2 families have 1 child, and they are going into extinct, and they can't reverse. You need 1.81 reproduced to carry on in existence. In Britain now it's 1.76. That's a subject by itself on its own. But Islam, through the marriage, encouraging marriage, always protected mankind from extinct. Now Islam came, regulated asylum seeking. The Hijrah, when the Prophet ﷺ left Mecca to Medina, the Medina people, every family took a family of immigrants to them. So they shared their houses with them, they shared their jobs. And even one of them came to Abdurrahman ibn Auf, and he said, Abdurrahman ibn Auf was single, and he said to him, I have 2 wives, choose one of them, I will divorce her, and when she finishes Iddah, you marry her. So imagine, shared even the wives. He had 2 wives, he said, I will divorce one of them, and you marry her. Asylum seekers absorbed straight away by families. They came and lived in their houses, and including the Prophet ﷺ, he lived in the house of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari buried in outside or in Istanbul, the East Istanbul, and he went as far as there with the Muslim army. But Abu Ayyub al-Ansari actually accommodated Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in his house. Imagine. And so they did. So asylum seekers, instead of putting them in a ghetto and somewhere in tents or whatever, Islam took them as a human being like us. Give them houses, give them food, give them money, give them jobs, and so on and so forth. Regulated wars. Government only can self-defense. When the Prophet ﷺ was in Mecca, no government, no state, he was avoiding even the answering the kuffar, and no war, no fighting back. When they came to Medina and became a state, and the Qurayshi came to fight the Prophet ﷺ, then he fought back as a country defending itself. So we are against all these Qaeda and Daesh and ISIS who go individually fight other people, which is not in Islam. A country could establish a war because of genuine, valid reasons, but not individuals. Establish democratic election. And we mentioned before that how Uthman ibn Affan, when the election came after the Prophet ﷺ died, Abu Bakr was elected unopposed. Umar ibn Khattab was the only nomination, and he was elected unopposed. But when he died, Umar ibn Khattab, there were 6 came for nominated to become Khalifa, and it was narrowed down to 2, Uthman ibn Affan and Ali ibn Abi Talib. And Abdurrahman ibn Auf went outside asking individuals in Medina, would you like Uthman or Ali? And 70% wanted Uthman, 30% wanted Ali. And that's the first time in history the leader elected in a democratic way by the people. So Islam is ahead of all civilizations in all aspects. Ban terrorism. No one can come and just take the law into his own hand and fight and kill and steal and things like this. Allowed divorce. Until last century, divorce was banned in Christianity. Doesn't exist. You're stuck with the wife until she dies or you die or one of you kill the other one. But Islam came 1440 years ago. He said, if things are not going correctly, try to mend it. Try to get a member of your family, try to put things back together. If that fails, then divorce. And you divorce the first time, and you can mend it again the second time, and mend it the third time. If you divorce the third time, you don't go back to the wife. So that's regulated in a way to protect the marriage, protect the children, protect the family. But if things do not work, then separate and divorce. So Islam allowed divorce, which is obviously I've put on these slides. I will email you inshallah this some of these, so you could have it on your record. Allowed divorce 1400 years ago. It hasn't happened in the church until recently. He banned sorcery. People come and use magic, pretend to do things or not do things and affect the others. So Islam came and banned these cheating ways, controlling people with you discover things people are not aware of and you use it against them. Islam banned open practicing of prostitutions and homosexuality or lesbian and things. And that's in Islam is a worship. If somebody if people drink alcohol and Allah said don't drink, you get rewarded for not drinking. If people allowed homosexuality and you don't practice, you will be rewarded for that. And the same is if prostitution or having affair is allowed in a country, but you don't practice, you get rewarded for it. So Islam rewards you for things Allah said it's not good for you. And Islam encouraged the seeking of treatment if you are ill. While people used to go to their idols and statues, ask them to cure them, Islam said, no, there's a cure, you go and search for it, and you will find it. And the Prophet ﷺ said, every illness have a cure. Some people know it, some people don't. So there is a cure for every illness, you must search for it. Establish healthy diet and daily exercise. You go 5 times to the mosque, and the further from the mosque you are, the better for you. And Islam also wants you to eat just to survive, not to overeat and get overweight and things. The Prophet said, "حسب ابن آدم قيمات أن يقمن صلبة." Few mouthful will be enough to keep you alive. That's what you need. And if you are to eat, 1/3 of your stomach should be for your food, 1/3 for your drink, or 1/3 leave empty for your air. So you have diaphragm go up and down, and you breathe easily. So the presentation today to feel that Islam is actually what's most needed now across the globe. We mentioned many times about economy as well. So here is established all nations should diet at the same time, fasting Ramadan. Everybody, which makes it easier for everybody to eat less. Unfortunately, Muslims don't eat less in Ramadan, which is defeat the object. What are you showing me, Zuha and Farhan, Ayub? Yeah, I need to listen to me. We have Sulaiman disappeared. He went to the loo, or he just don't want to show his face. I need to see that you are following my talk, otherwise I will be talking to myself. Aisha Malik can't see her. Bilal Chaudhry can't see. Halima Shaban. So the use of medicine in Islam is established by Islam. Use medicine. And a man came to the Prophet, his son has diarrhea. He said, let him drink honey. He came the second day, he said, didn't stop. He said, let him drink honey. And the third day, he said, let him drink honey. And then he recovered. And the Prophet said, Sadaq Allah wa kadhaba batnu akhik. Allah was truthful, and the tummy of your son wasn't. So it means that you have to take a dose of medicine on repetitive times. It doesn't work one shot. You have to have 3 times a day, 3 days, 5 days, whatever. So establish that medicine have rules, and you follow the rules. Islam established a right for parents. Otherwise, when they go old and they can't work anymore, or they have problem with their memories, or they have chronic illness, who will look after them? Now there's pensions across the globe, and pensions disappearing. Many countries don't have pension, and old people carry on working till they are 80 and 90, which is not fair at all. In Islam, you have to look after their needs. Establish the law and the right of the husband, the right of the wife, the right of the husband being right from the wife, the right of the wife from the husband, right of the husband from the wife. And Allah Azza wa Jalla said they each should have equal in contribution to the marriage. So this is established by Islam. Until now, the husband in Britain go and spend his money on his personal hobbies, mountain climbing, driving fast cars and things, and the wife goes and spends on the house, which is not fair at all. So, right for the children from the parents. The session is about to finish, so we'll just catch up with a few more things. The right of the neighbors. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Jibreel kept asking me to be good to the neighbors, and I thought he was going to include him in the inheritance, that there's a share for your neighbor. And if you are not a mu'min, if you sleep with the stomach full of food and your neighbor is hungry. So probably we'll have to go through discussion next week about what Islam introduced to mankind in the 21st century. And this we have to take it and give it to non-Muslims. Say, look, the cure is here. You're missing the cure which is already in existence and proved to be valid over the last 1,400 years. So we have to carry on with that. Abolish poverty. We mentioned zakah, how zakah taking 2.5% of the wealth from the wealthy, giving it to the poor every year, so the government doesn't have to print money. And that's what's happening now. They can't sell the gold, they're printing money, making the value of money drop by the day. Establish the redistributing of the wealth through inheritance, zakah, diya, fidya, and all sorts of things in you pay. Now we pay, the harder you work, the less zakah you pay. We said if you get your food, no effort, you pay 5% or 10%. If you work hard, you pay 2.5%. Encourage investment. The Prophet ﷺ said, invest your money, don't let the zakah eat it. So your money increases and you give zakah, and your money increases more. Make work is a form of worship. If you work, you will be like, if you are worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. If you are studying, if you go to study in the university, you will be like doing jihad for the sake of Allah until you finish. Allah will make a way for you to Jannah. So all these principles we need to take on board, learn it, and pass it to the community and to the world. Actually, they are in most need now for us. Allah Azza wa Jal banned a lot of bad things like dead animals, wild animals. If banning wild animals existed in China, we wouldn't have coronavirus, assuming that the virus came from the past. So we are banned from eating anything more than the 5 types Allah allowed us to eat. sheep, cows, goats, camels, and chickens. Otherwise, don't invade the wild world. Let the wild world carry on. He bans killing wild animals, protected domestic animals, and comforted animals when slaughtering. Even when you slaughter animal for eating, you shouldn't slaughter one animal in front of others. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. We have the Zoom finished, so we'll probably finish the talk here on the Facebook, and it will be inshallah with a slide reduced later. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.